you guys, he's kind of enamored with this idea of wanting to be remembered for something. So in your real life, if there was one thing you could be remembered for, what would it be?
That's a great question.
It's a good question.
I mean, I think that first I want to say the lesson that Gus learns in the movie, which is that you don't have to be remembered, because at one point in time, as Hazel Gray so perfectly put, oblivion is inevitable. So I mean, I think I just want to be remembered by my friends and my family and by the people who care about me as being someone who was creative and excited about learning new things and trying new things and just loving life.
So I thought about it, but in the end, like, I think I agree with Augustus that violates the contract between reader and writer. Now, a lot of people will say to that, like, well, then why didn't we find out, like, what happens to Hazel or what happens to Hazel's mom? Well, because you have to end a book somewhere, or else every book would end with, like, the extinction of the human species. So I chose to end it where I could, but I tried to give enough of an ending that I wouldn't violate that contract between us, you know?
Like, making the movie, it kind of taught me how to be an adult, because like, I was 19 when I was making it. It was like one of my first times out of my house, living without my mom and dad, so I was sort of like, wait, how do I do like laundry and stuff? First time outside.
Ansel learned how to shave. He literally learned how to drive.
Literally.
Yeah, that was a little scary.
It was really scary at first. But
Don't get in a car with Ansel. It's supposed to be scary. I was a natural at hitting crash.
Yeah, Gus is such a bad driver, and that's why we picked Ansel for the part, you know? And he just had it. He had that bad driver magic. You know what I learned? I kind of went into this process pretty nervous that they were going to make a movie that didn't honor the book, that it was going to be exploitative, that it was going to be sentimentalized, all the things that I did not want the movie to be. And what I learned is that when a group of really passionate people come together, they can do things that one person alone can't do. And so I'd always seen the process of making a movie as the process of like watering down a story as more and more collaborators enter into it. But for The Fault in Our Stars, it was a process of more and more collaborators entering into it, and the movie becoming better and better and better. And I'm just so grateful to them for their talents and for sharing their talents with this little story. It's also weird for me as an old man to write from a teenager perspective of any kind, because I don't know what kind of music you guys listen to. Like, the Fault in Our Stars track list came out and I was so excited, and like, no offense to any of those people, because I love the soundtrack, I think it's awesome, but I'd never heard of any of them, you know? I have no idea what music you listen to. I only listen to one band. They're called the Mountain Goats. They're great. They make all the music I want to listen to, and then sometimes I listen to my brother. Sometimes I listen to Nat and Alex. Sometimes I listen to a little house music with An Solo. Sometimes I listen to Shailene sing me "These Boots Were Made for Walking." And that's all I need. But yeah, and I don't know like the slang that y'all use or anything, so like, in writing, I'm imagining the emotional experiences. I'm not imagining the details. Real great, Ansel. That hat was made for a man with your head width. So when it came to imagining Hazel, when I thought abstractly about writing from a girl's perspective, I was like, and I kind of panicked. But when I thought really detailed about writing from Hazel's perspective, then it was fine. Because Hazel was just one particular person. I wasn't trying to make broad, sweeping statements about, you know, what it means to be 16 in 2014, because I don't know. But I did feel like I could write from Hazel's perspective.
So you did a perfect job.
Thank you.
You know, there's a lot of times that John just reminds me of a 16-year-old girl. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways. I will say this, no joking about me being a 16-year-old girl while I'm wearing this tiny hat on my head. The thing that I love about teenagers the most is that they are able to experience emotion without irony and without like trying to protect themselves from it. They have authentic emotional experiences. I know this sounds ridiculous with me, I have a tiny hat on my head. And I love that. I love that they are like falling in love for the first time, and it's intense and it's real, and even when adults don't acknowledge its realness or acknowledge that it matters, it does matter. And I love that they're like grappling with big questions about what the meaning of life is and why we suffer and all that stuff. They're doing it without irony and without fear and with great openness. And in that way, I am a 16-year-old girl.
And afterward, the story took on an even greater meaning for me. How do you hope that this story affects those who are struggling with cancer and trying to find the beauty in living again?
So, what I'd say in answer to that, and I want them to answer too, but what I would say is that the most important thing about the story to me is that no one walk on eggshells around you, because being sick can be so socially isolating. So you're dealing with this physical illness, but at the same time you're dealing with people who are really uncomfortable. They don't know what to say to you, they don't know what to ask, and that's really, really hard. It makes it harder. And my hope is that through the story and other stories like it, people will see that people who are living with illness are people. You know, that they aren't fundamentally other from other people.
And it doesn't define
your life is just as meaningful and valuable and full of love and hope and joy and fear and anger and all the stuff that everybody else feels. And then that your disease has not in any way changed that or taken any of that away from you, and it never can.